Welcome back and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. Many people are working on building online businesses today, but there's a lot of bad advice out there, especially on social media, with a lot of the get rich quick advice that's often wrong. Sometimes it can be debunked with a simple SEO mindset for solving problems. And when do you launch that business? Do you have to be perfect to start with all the pieces that go into it? Jennifer Bradley is an SEO and marketing consultant to HB Enterprises, and she also helps SMBs and entrepreneurs build online businesses through her consulting brand, The Digital Strategy Guru. And on this episode, we'll discuss building online businesses and shortening that learning curve to generate more leads and sales, researching that customer fix to potential problems, looking at free digital tools, the boring fundamentals conference versus listening to some of the bad funnel hacks that you see on social, shark watching, Tony Montana and the Pursuit of Happiness, the beaches of Galveston, Padre Island, and a lot more. So let's tune into the Digital Strategy Guru with a shark guru on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me today on A Shark's Perspective. Tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date.
Absolutely. Well, I have been in the digital marketing, online marketing space for, a couple of decades. No, over a decade. And I started off thinking, you know what, I want to be a programmer. I was taking a lot of programming courses. And then I took one online marketing course and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in the wrong industry. I switched my major, went into e-commerce, and that was the impetus of me just really falling in love with this industry. So I've worked for Google, I've worked for Microsoft, I've helped to train their web-based search algorithms, and now I consult with a lot of top very large companies in the industry. I also help entrepreneurs, so small business owners, really helping them to communicate online effectively, help them to really drive more sales, more leads, and just gain more visibility for their brand. So online, I'm known as the digital strategy guru. I know. It definitely is just an area that I absolutely love and that I've been in so long and I've seen so much that I just want to help as many people as possible to be successful in this industry, because there's a lot to it. It's not as easy as just, posting up a website or selling a product and then you're a millionaire overnight. So I think that's a lot of the things that I really want to help people to understand and help them to overcome and be successful.
Well, so you work for some really big name brands, the Googles, Microsofts, HPEs of the world. What's the backstory for why you want to help those small businesses? A lot of people tend to stay in the big name brands only, but you're spending as much of your personal time as you can just helping build out a lot of these SMBs.
Oh gosh, it's an excellent question. I was there before, and I think that's really what is pushing me to help as many people, because when I was working for a lot of the companies, a lot of larger companies, and even before I started working for those large companies, I went through transitionary periods where I was laid off from a job. I didn't know, how I was going to generate income for myself and my family. And the one thing that always worked for me was building these online businesses. And I think everything that I learned from these large companies, it's really helped me to be successful online. And if I can do it, they can do it as well. And it's really, oftentimes I think when you start a business or you're doing something online, I think there's a lot of misconceptions on the ease of actually being successful. And, for me, going through, seeing how things don't work, seeing how, you might not get any sales, you don't know which way to go. And just having that background of not only working for like these larger companies, but just doing things on my own, it really pushed me to say, you know what, I can help a lot of other people that maybe, they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So I just really feel like just having that background, it's really helped to push me to say, you know what, let me help as many people as possible be successful, because I know what it's like to, get let go from a job or not know how you're going to make, ends meet. And it's just amazing how anybody, like a small business person, mom and pop shop, can really get online and really do something substantial. So that's just really the impetus for me. It's just really all about, I understand what it feels like to be in that situation, and then I know what to do to get out of it. So just helping as many people as
Sure.
possible.
Sure. Well, if you were launching an online business today, which you have, maybe it wasn't today, it was yesterday, but because I know you've done that with some different brands in your own, where do you start then in your mind with launching an online business today, especially when you look at where people are needing to pivot, they're needing to pivot their careers, the pandemic is shaking everything up, so you're seeing people consider more entrepreneurial paths,
Yeah.
but the fall from doing something well can be a lot more severe when everybody's funds have been tapped and their bankrolls aren't what they used to be. And so launching a business and having a critical path of success, or knowing that path of success, is even that much more important today than it would have necessarily been when times were great back in the old days, back in 2019.
Absolutely. That's something that, I'm seeing a lot of as well. It's just, what path to take. And, even back when I started in this industry, it was all about follow your passion. You're passionate about something. That's what you need to fall in alignment with. And that's the type of business you should go into. And while that does have truth behind it, at the end of the day, there are also, maybe your passion isn't something that's as popular, and maybe it's
Yeah.
not something that's as much of a need. So you can still go after that, but I think it can
Well, you may not find your passion on SEMrush,
you
you
might
know.
not. You might not. So one of the things that's really going to be helpful to anybody that's starting a new business or an entrepreneur, what have you, is to really go after or really do research on where the needs are. Like where can you satisfy a need? Where's there already a hungry market that's looking for a solution? Because that's going to make your actual progress of getting things up and running, it'll be a lot quicker. The learning curve will be a lot easier than it would be, just to kind of, wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. This is my business. I'm going for it. Just a little bit of research behind it. That's one of the main things. That's what I'm always promoting. It's just really doing that research and understanding, where you can satisfy that need. And I think if you take that path with your new business, it makes it so much easier. So much.
Well, walk us through what you've done to help launch one. Walk us through that with a step, with an idea, where you start with a lot of the people you consult with now.
Absolutely. So what I do, a lot of what I do now with the consulting, these companies already have a product line, right? They already know that there's a need. They've already tapped into that market. But where I help them is really understanding where those gaps are. Are there opportunities that they are not fulfilling for their customers that they could be doing better? So that's what I really do to help them, is really just identify, okay, where are those gaps in what we're offering? Where are those gaps in how we're positioning the solutions? Maybe we've been positioning the solutions in a way that it doesn't necessarily tell all of the benefits and how people are able to use it, and what, how that's going to help affect their company. So for those larger companies, I've taken that approach. Now, for smaller companies, so say you're a smaller entrepreneur, one of the really great ways, and I know I don't want to get too techie, because I never want to get like techie type person, but one of the great ways you can do that is just really looking at some of the free tools like available with Google. Like say you're just, say maybe you have a passion for bird watching, and I'm just making something up. So maybe that's a topic that you're really
Shark
interested
watching.
in. Exactly. Exactly. Shark watching. You can use a lot of the free tools out there that are available. Google keyword tool. You can use Answer the Public, where you're just really going out there and maybe you just type in what your niche is or what you're interested in, and you can get a really good idea of some of the questions people have or some of the problems that people are having. And that can give you a lot of insight into maybe the types of products or services, or maybe ebooks or things of that nature, that you could provide to people to kind of help answer those questions and be that solution oriented provider. So I'm taking it from a perspective of really looking at, fishing where the fish are. I think that's, yeah, where they already are. And you take that information and really help you. So that's always step one. That's always the first thing, that I look at. And then from there, just to kind of get a little techie and digital to speak, I do a lot of, research around, what the competitors are doing, where those gaps are. And then from there, that gives you a lot of insight on what you should do. So I think when it comes to right now, and if you're a new entrepreneur or you're thinking about an online business, those should be like steps 1 and 2 that you really take to help to figure out where there's a need and where you can fill it.
Well, give me an example of what you did with one of your businesses that you launched.
Oh, one of the businesses, I did a lot of research. I've launched a couple of different businesses, some of them more successful than others, some not so successful, but that's the great thing about it. One of the businesses that I launched, I took those steps that I just mentioned. I like fitness. If you see anything about me, you'll see that I'll post that I'm riding bikes, I'm lifting weights, things like that. So that was an area that I was passionate about and in love with. But as there's that's a huge market, right?
Sure.
So, for me, it was looking into, okay, what's the need behind the need? Where can I carve out maybe a little piece for myself that maybe is underserved? Maybe it's a market that's underserved. So what I discovered was that women were really interested in getting unique exercise leggings. So these types of exercise apparel that was different and it made them stand out and it hit their flaws. And so I launched a business around that. It was wildly successful. I did great. Now, one of the things that I do with a lot of the businesses that I have online is I will sell them, and I'll sell them to other entrepreneurs that are maybe starting, and maybe they haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of that research, but they want to tap into something that's already working. So I was able to do that with that particular business. And I've done that with a couple of others, but that's just, kind of an example of how I've been able to use what I just told you about to help it to be successful for me. It's definitely replicatable.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I like the point, especially when you think about launching a business, really looking at everything from the start to where you just finished, but really looking at sort of these tools to start that are free, that are out there. I think we tend to think as marketers and people in business, this is old hat. You and me writing title tags for a website is old hat. I mean, you can have some gray hairs around SEO and SEM and things like that. Google Analytics. I've been doing it for a decade,
Right.
but a great majority of the small businesses are focused on setting up a restaurant or their gift shop or whatever else they need to fight against Amazon or some other behemoth in the market. Walmart. Remember when the only thing we had to worry about is if you were launching an online business was Walmart. That was your biggest competitor. Now it's trying to navigate where do you place your product within Amazon store
Yeah.
and writing the stuff around it. So really thinking through researching what people want and then how to position it after is just it's not spoken about nearly enough. Then what do you think about then when you see what's out there with what's misleading people? Because a lot of people run down the wrong path as well, and they see a lot of bad content out there that helps them put a lot of bad marketing practices into play.
That's a really good question because there's so much out there, right? There's so many different.
Yeah, it's hard to navigate through to get to the good stuff.
It absolutely is, and that's something, and I can understand how it can be like. I've been in an industry, so I know, I
Well, yeah, you've been in it for a decade,
yeah,
so you know where to whittle through what's good advice and what's bad to some degree.
right.
And it can be a big decision at any large brand, but if you make a mistake in your day job, a massive global corporation's not necessarily going to shut down. They may miss a quarter in sales, which can be devastating. People are going to lose their job. That's not to where somebody else is launching their own online business. They're putting all their money into it. They could lose a generation's worth of wealth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely, and I see that because there is so much out there. And I think that the thing that happens is since there is so much out there, I think that that's where probably the most of the problems come, especially when I work with the smaller companies or the smaller entrepreneurs. They feel like you have to do everything all at once. Like, I've got to build an email list, I've got to do SEO, I've got to do pay per click, I've got to make sure my social media accounts are in place. I've got to make sure my website is mobile friendly. So it's just, I think there's a lot of great information, but I think that where it's missing is kind of just really letting people know, maybe in the beginning you don't necessarily have to go after all of those different components right at the same time. Sometimes it's more effective just to start on maybe one step. And I discussed this last week in another session that I held. If I was talking to a new entrepreneur, where would I tell them to start first? And to be absolutely transparent with you, I really think that right now, given where we are, social media is probably a good step one to start. Let's start getting, because you have that capability to connect immediately with people. So if you have a local restaurant, you're able to connect with your local community instantly. So I think that, that's part of what I see out there that I think that is misleading. Is I think it creates this expectation that you have to do all of these different things right now, or else you're not going to be successful. And I really feel like that's kind of one of the things that people should really, as a new entrepreneur, maybe you take a step back and you say, you know what, step one, I'll do this. Step two, maybe after I grow a social media following, I'll work on really building those people to help to kind of now push them to the next phase of the buyer's journey. Or maybe it's where I'm offering something for free. Maybe I have coupons. Maybe I have, an ebook or a guide, and I'm just making up all these different elements.
Well, and we're also talking, to be fair, about consumer good type things you're selling. This is not necessarily you selling, for example, yourself as a service. When is it not social media that you necessarily need to start with?
That's a really good question. And, I've done that with both. So I've worked for business to consumer and also business to business. Now, I do believe in some aspects it might make more sense to start initially with your website if you're doing more B2B, just because, especially if you have like, it's a more complicated process, if it's something that's a little bit more difficult to understand, and maybe there's a little bit more hand holding and explanation that needs to occur, maybe your website is the first thing you need to work on. Let's start getting that optimized effectively. But for the vast majority, I still feel like social is a good place to start. And even with the large B2B companies that I work with, they still work on developing out their social media as well. Because even though you're dealing with business to business, they're still humans. They're still humans who are visiting the social media sites. And the great thing about that is you are able to kind of target them, even, in different, if they're in the business environment, then they're kind of, in their normal everyday environment, kind of to remind them of why you are a solution for them. So I think that's kind of the differentiator between those two. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Let's dive into something you and I had discussed
Yeah.
previously, but there's also a lot of get rich quick schemes out there. Way too many. I mean, if you scroll through your Instagram feed, you'll see an ad a lot more prevalent with a get rich quick scheme all day long. Talk about how you view a lot of those, especially for people who are consuming that type of knowledge through social media, and then they get that kind of advice.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I have, that's been going on since eternity. And the thing about it is it actually, it's effective, right? It really draws people in because people have a need. But I think that, where we kind of see, and let me kind of, maybe I need to take that back. You can have success in internet marketing, online marketing, e-commerce, what have you. It absolutely is true that you can have success, but I think that what really kind of alerts me is that they make it sound so easy. You just set up a website and you'll be a
Boom,
millionaire
done. Yeah.
tomorrow. So for me, that's the part that's really, it kind of makes me cringe, because I feel like they mislead people into, anything. It's going to take work. I scroll through, social media platforms, and I see, people promoting how, they made $10 million yesterday, or, they have all their products and, how much they've sold lined up so everyone can see it. They're showing their bank accounts, and that's wonderful, and that's great, but I think it also sets, if you partake in that, say you don't know that, there's a lot that goes behind that, I think it causes a lot of people to become frustrated, and a lot of
Absolutely.
people probably they stop too soon because, based on what they're seeing, they're supposed to be successful, so they obviously are failing. So I just think that that's part of, what I see, that's, it makes I just kind of get, skin crawl. And
Well, and I'll tell you where it comes. I used to ignore a lot of them, but then people would come to me asking me for advice. But I saw this on Facebook,
yep.
and then you're having to spend more time backing up what they may have thought they learned, because a great, sometimes snake oil salesperson
Yep.
sold them on an idea and articulated extremely well. And look, some things work well. If you're talking about a campaign,
Absolutely.
you can use a lot of tips and tricks and hacks, but long-term fundamentals for a company, especially even if it's a startup company, if you don't have that sort of forever promise to yourself, your brand, your tribe, your people, the people that follow you, the people that are going to buy in your service, a short-term funnel hack that can dunk your business long-term as well. So
Exactly.
that's what people are finding and consuming sometimes too often because they saw it on social.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see that so much. I mean, and I think it, like you were saying, it absolutely is. There's truth behind it. That these things do work. They absolutely work, but there's absolutely work and testing and failing and learning and adjusting and adapting that happens along the way as well. And I just, I know it's not as sexy to put that out there. You don't ever see anybody saying,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness, I spent $1,000 and I made $0 yesterday," or, so it's not as neat and cool, or whatever. I said cool, but it's not as, fascinating when you see something like that. I think
I've never been to the Boring Fundamentals conference.
me either.
Yeah.
Me neither. And the other thing too that I see a lot, that sometimes I'm like, ugh, I've seen a lot like on social media too, where it's kind of like, if you don't have, like, if you aren't an entrepreneur, or if you don't have your own business, like, you're failing. And,
Yeah.
and I get it. I absolutely believe entrepreneurship is amazing, and it's definitely something people, absolutely should go towards. But when I see those messages, sometimes it kind of makes me go, because you know what? I learned a lot from working.
Mm-hmm.
When you work for a company or organization, you get the opportunity to learn. You get to see so many different things that maybe you wouldn't have seen on your own. You get to test on their budget, so to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
you learn a lot. And, I think that, a lot of times people, I see that, and it's just really, sometimes to me, I'm like, you know what, there's yin and the yang with everything. Maybe, some people should, some people, and it's okay if you decide, you know what, I want to work for a little bit, I want to learn, and then I want to venture out on my own. I just, sometimes when I see that, I feel like it's really creating this view that, if you work for someone, if you're in a company, if you're in a business or an organization, that you're failing. So I don't know, just I see that, and we were talking about what we see in social media, and that just kind of dinged to me. So
Yeah. So you and I met through a conference where you and I both spoke from a diversity standpoint. A lot of times you don't see a lot of females speaking about SEO, or let alone African American females speaking about SEO. How do you look at diversity then with really helping get the word out there to help resonate maybe to a different audience and to help people learn to appreciate different voices?
yeah, that's a good question. My and my entire time in this industry, I've always been one of, the few of me, people like me. It's always been like that, because you didn't get a lot of programmers who are females, and like me, you didn't get a lot of people who really looked at different steps from that situation. So I think that this is a good opportunity. I'm excited because what's happening is I'm seeing a lot more people of all different races, all different genders, just really understanding the capability and what's out there and what's available. I think people are starting to see that technology is something that can advance everyone and advance us all. And I think that that's really causing people to look at different perspectives because,
Well, especially with being able to amplify launching an online business.
Exactly. And so many people are looking and taking that route. I think that now people are looking and saying, you know what? This is something that's capable for me, and I think it's showing a lot of people what's possible. So I'm excited because I'm seeing so many different women, men, everyone, people of color, really getting into the technical fields, and that's exciting. And not only that, they're looking at, now that I have this online business, how can I grow it? What can I do? And I think that when they see other people who resonate with them, I think it helps them to realize what's capable for them. So ultimately, I'm excited about where we are all going and how it's creating a lot of opportunity for everyone.
Any other tips and tricks and tools that you can think of that really stand out for you the most with helping launch an online business? When we talked about quite a few of them that were great, but is there any other thing you really want people to think about with what they can get access to with launching an online business today?
So, I say that some of one of the things that I'm really getting a lot of is people who are asking, why am I not getting any sales? I've launched
Exactly.
this business, what's happening? Why is it not working? So, one of the biggest things, and we kind of touched on this previously, was really just reevaluating the need. Sometimes we might have entered into a market that doesn't necessarily have that much of a need. So I think that that's where the opportunity is to kind of go back, reevaluate, look at some of those tools that I mentioned earlier that are free, that can really help you to determine if people are actually interested in what you're providing. If you do find that, hey, you know what, people are looking for this is a need in the market, then that's where the opportunity comes in, maybe to look at your website. And we didn't discuss this a lot before, but a lot of times you can find so much information through your website, through your analytics. You can find out if people come to your website, are they immediately leaving your website? If they're putting things in the cart, but they're not buying them or moving forward with the purchase, or you can see if people are spending a lot of time on certain pages. Maybe there's questions that they have that you can really help to answer. So I think that's the other thing to really look into, because I'd say those are the top two tips right now, that if you aren't seeing sales in your business, those are some areas that you could really look in that could potentially help you tremendously.
Well, Jennifer, so we get to know you a little bit better. This question I've been asking people a lot. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, geez, my favorite movie. I have so many different movies. I've watched so much. Most recently, I watched Pursuit of Happiness. I've been watching Ozark. It's Scarface because I like. It's so funny, but
So, The Pursuit of Happiness and Scarface.
yeah.
Okay, that's a good combination. So, Jennifer, I ask this of all my guests. I've got, as you see from my background, I ask this of everybody. What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
My favorite type of shark, the kind that doesn't kill me.
Most won't.
Is there one of those types?
Yeah, that's again,
Good
this is
shark.
I'm trying to educate people that they're not all mindless, you know, attack dogs.
Thank you.
Very
Because that's
misunderstood.
yeah, maybe that's a good thing. I need to spend more time to learn a lot more about them. But
So
I
we'll say a nurse shark. That's a
nerve, nerve,
nurse.
nurse.
Nurse, like a
Uh,
NURSE.
also,
They
they're
basically
the kind that won't kill me. I like that.
yes, yeah,
I like.
they're very easy ones.
I'll look them up.
So it's that special time of the show. Are you ready for the five most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Yeah.
All
Am I?
right. We'll say is number one. Large enterprise businesses or SMB startups?
SMB startups.
Number 2, SEM or SEO?
Can I combine them? SEO.
All right. Number 3, the beaches of Galveston, Corpus Christi, and Padre Island where you're close to, or the beaches of Northern California where you used to spend time when you were at school
Uh,
and
that's
working at Google and all
yeah.
those good places?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna say California. Sorry, Texas. Love
Oh.
Texas, but California is amazing, and it's not so hot. But it
Yeah.
is.
Now, beaches, yes. Water, no.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Number 4, talked a little bit about social earlier, Facebook or Instagram,
Ooh, good one. Instagram.
because you spend most of your time on Instagram, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a reason for that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Instagram. Yeah, the visibility is a
A lot better. Yeah.
it,
Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
cornbread.
All right. So, Jennifer, where can people find out more about you, keep up with what you're doing, see some of your webinars, your strategy sessions, and more?
Guys, you can find me on Instagram at the Digital Strategy Guru. I give a lot of tips, I give a lot of pointers, things you can do to really help yourself to stand out online, whether you have a small business or a large business, or if you're just getting started and you're wondering, where do I go? What do I do? It's going to give you a lot of great direction.
Awesome. Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you so much for having me. Goodbye, everybody.
So there was my conversation with Jennifer Bradley, an SEO and marketing consultant to HP Enterprises, and she also helps SMBs and entrepreneurs build online businesses through her personal consulting brand, The Digital Strategy Guru. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, one of the things that we both love is helping other people with these kinds of needs. Speaking with her reminded me of why I enjoy doing this show. A big reason for me as well is to take some of the lessons learned, having overcome a lot of mistakes of my own, and sharing the knowledge that might help people grow a business as opposed to some of the get-rich-quick schemes that we see all the time. We know a lot of them don't work, but those salespeople are very good, and so often people fall into that trap. We're surrounded by a wealth of information, if you will, but sometimes the currency for that wealth is not worth very much, if you get the idea. Jennifer said it well, and I quote, "I understand what it feels like to be in that situation, and I know what to do to get out of it. So just helping as many people as possible." Well said. Second, good advice to consider before you launch a business. Do research on where the needs are. Think beforehand on the problem you can solve for people rather than just launching the features and benefits, if you will, of your product or service, how that does or doesn't fit a need for consumers. Sometimes the solution may not be a problem the public actually has. Her recommendation is simply to find out where there is a need and then look at how you can fill it. Great advice that a lot of very successful entrepreneurs will echo. Third, when looking at all the pieces that go into building an online brand, she likes the social media aspect as a go-to first because it's the place where you first connect with people, your community instantly. And that's a great point. Depends on the type of business, of course, but connecting with people first is really always a good thing. But as she went on to say, especially for those that are starting a business, sometimes the expectation is too much for people to get all the pieces perfect before launching. But don't let trying to attain that be the starting line in whatever journey you're undertaking. You're going to work to perfect along the way and then perfect it further and then again and then again. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. The future is bright, my friends. Now let's move forward and be brighter together. Join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.